Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hey, today we're going to actually do a gun review once again. And today we're talking about the Marlin 3030. More importantly, it's the Marlin 30 AW. And no, AW is not an assault weapon for you fuds out there. Hey, time out. Before we get too far into this video, just wanted to remind you, link down below in the description for the merch store, where you can get some nice merch for this holiday season. As I screw up my sweatshirt. Plenty of designs are available. If for some reason there is a design that you want that is not available in the sweatshirt, just shoot me an email and I'll change it for you. Not all designs are in the sweatshirt, but the more popular ones are obviously going to be guns and ammo. People are like glow sticks, and of course tinnitus, because that is the sound of freedom. If you served in the military, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I know times are tough, and sometimes people just can't splurge on some awesome swag, and that's okay. I get it. At the very least, all you have to do is like the video, share it with your friends, let your friends know about the channel, and if you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Just toggle the bell so you get notification when I put up a new video. And if you so choose, you can use locals, you can use Patreon, become a member here on the channel, and get some behind-the-scenes stuff. That's about it, guys. All right, back to the video. It's just a variant of the Model 336, the cheaper version of it. But it is what it is. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Marlin. Now, why do I have a soft spot for guns like Marlin, High Standard, Colt, and a few others? Well, that's simple. They're Connecticut manufacturers. In case you didn't know, Connecticut used to be massive in the gun manufacturing community. Connecticut had some of the best firearms manufacturers here. And slowly but surely, our state has chased them away. Now, you might want to blame the taxes, you might want to blame the climate, you want to blame the Democrats. I don't really care. All I know is a lot of the manufacturers that used to exist in Connecticut have left. Granted, I mean, you go through Hartford, you're still going to see the Colt building. It still exists, but they're not making the guns there anymore. Marlin, you used to see it right off the highway, gone. They're in North Carolina now. And various other manufacturers have dipped out too. They've gone to the greener pastures. But this particular one right here is a North Haven. That is a North Haven gun. Just like the High Standard that I have is a Hamden gun. And I like those. All right, I got a soft spot in my heart for them. All right, so in case you didn't know, Marlin Firearms is an American manufacturer that was stationed or in North Haven. Stationed. It was in North Haven, and they made shotguns, lever actions, etc. And they've been around forever and a day. In fact, they were making guns all the way back in 1872. Mainly in World War I, Marlin became one of the largest manufacturers of machine guns for the war effort. And what did we do to them? Chased them away. So, good job, Connecticut. I know in 2007, they sold to Remington, and Remington did not like the location here in North Haven, so they packed up their toys and left. All right, now, this one, what is it chambered in? It is chambered in 3030 Winchester. Of course it is. That is the quintessential, ubiquitous round for a lever action. So anytime someone's like, oh, this is my deer gun, this is my truck gun, like, you know, the gun that hangs in the back of a window of a truck. It's a gun that's on their snowmobile while they're going off into the back country here in the Northeast. Or it's a backpacker's gun, right? Like a guide gun. That is where it's gained a lot of popularity these days in the modern times, is as a guide's rifle. This thing can take everything out from a deer. And, well, in Canada, it's taken a lot of moose. And Canada did not like that, but it could drop a moose. I don't know how effective it is, but according to the stats I was reading, Canada had a problem with people shooting moose with their 30-30s. I guess it'll drop a moose. Now, remember, it's not for long range. Literally, you've got to be within 100 to 150 yards of the critter. So you get a good beat on Bambi. Bambi's got to be 150 yards in. Now, some people say you can push it out to 200. Honestly, I wouldn't even try it. It is 100, 150 yards. That's about as far as you're going to go. Okay, so this right here, like I said in the beginning, is, I'm just going to kind of prop it up here. It's heavy. It's a 7-pound lever action. This right here is the inexpensive version of the Model 336. Now, the 336 from Marlin has been around since like 1948. It was either chambered in 30-30 Winchester or 35 Remington. It usually has a 20 to 24-inch barrel. This one is a 20-inch barrel. Now, Marlin made the 336 for decades, and then they needed a cheaper variant. So in the early 80s, around 83 or so, they came out with the inexpensive version, which happens to be this model right here. So the Model 336 was easily designed to be disassembled for cleaning very quickly and very easily. The removal of just the lever pivot screw, which is a flathead screw, allowed the entire thing to be field stripped, and you can just clean it. And unlike some lever actions where you have to go from the muzzle back here to the breech, you didn't have to do that with this one. Once it's all disassembled, you can clean it going that way from chamber downward, which will help protect your muzzle in the end. As of 1983, the Model 336 from Remington was ranked number 2 of all time in the U.S. for high-powered sporting rifle sales, only after the Winchester Model 1894, and it's over 3.5 million of them currently in circulation. I think it's more. That being said, Marlin made a very similar firearm generic. All right, a lot of manufacturers do that. They would make their rifle like a no brand for different stores, hardware stores, sporting goods stores, things like that. And they would hold on to their name specifically for them or larger FFLs, things of that nature. But by 1983, most of Marlin's mass merchandise retailers were in a really good position to demand that their rifles that they were selling would have the brand name of Marlin or Mossberg or whatever. So Marlin came up with a more inexpensive version of their 336, which is the 30 AW. The biggest differences are going to be the type of wood that they used and the type of sights. That's about it. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much going to be the same. Now, this one right here was a Walmart special. It was specifically sold at Walmart. So the Model 30 AW was the Walmart gun versus other stores, other retailers were selling like the Marlin 336W. This one was specifically Walmart. Well, Walmart actually sold guns, which they stopped doing a couple of years back. So the original package that Walmart offered coming from Marlin was the lever action, a padded sling, which is not bad. It's not the greatest, but it's there, and a relatively cheap scope. Now, the scope was like a 3-9 by 32. It was factory mounted, blah, blah, blah. The gun is only good for about 150 yards. You can just use your iron sights. When I was in the military, we were hitting targets. You know, obviously with ARs, it's a lot easier. I mean, it's good for up to 400 yards. But something like this, hitting something at 100 yards, not that hard. I don't have the scope on mine. It's sitting in a box somewhere. I just run straight up irons on this. Even though, yes, I wear glasses, I have no problem hitting the target at about 125 yards, dead on, super accurate and flat shooting. The reason I bring that up is between 0, where you are, to about 150 yards, the 30-30 Winchester is a really flat shot. After that, it just starts dropping fast. Literally, like right over here, I will put a diagram, and you can see how it comes out. And about 150 yards, just goes, pretty much falls out of the sky. Again, I know there's people online that say they can push it. I wouldn't try to do anything past 150. This is perfect for what you need, right? Millions upon millions of people around the world have been dropping Bambis left and right, year over year, with this type of gun and that type of caliber, the 30-30. You can't go wrong with that, all right? If you're trying to take a shot at Bambi at 400 yards, 500 yards out, great. 6.5 Creedmoor maybe, but listen, most people, you're going to be relatively close. Just use the 30-30. So let's start talking about this right here. So right off the get-go, the serial number is right here, right behind the hammer. And I was trying to figure out when this one was manufactured. So I had to look it up, and it was a pretty simple formula. The way Marlin serializes their guns is you take the first two numbers and subtract it from 100, and that will tell you the year that it was made. So this one, the first two numbers are a 03. I subtract that from 100. That is a 97. This was manufactured in 1997, which means it is obviously going to be a Connecticut firearm. So let's start at the very front, and we're going to talk about what this one has as compared to what the 336 would have, since this is a less expensive variant. So the front blade sight has a little brass bead right there. On mine, it is really hard to see. It is obviously an older firearm. Probably could use a little polish on it. You'll notice that there is no hood over the blade to protect it, and that's how they save some money. So this front sight does take a beating depending on how rough you are with your rifle. Luckily, this one was cared for a very long time. I know the previous owner, and he took well care of it. So the front sight is pretty good. For the rear sight, I'm pushing back, point back here. This is where the scope would be. For the rear sight, which is right there, it has got a bent steel piece with a U-notch. It does have the step adjustments for elevation, and it's slightly driftable for windage, so you can move this around by lifting it up and adjust it. Where I had it set, right there on the second notch, it was just dead on at about 50 yards. So that's what I have it set for. So I know that where everything's going to be. That's it. And I only did 50 yards because the range that I was at, that was the max that I could do. So if I moved the slide and elevated it up a little bit, I'm sure I could get it to 100. That being said, that was not an option. So this is where we're at. It does have a cross bolt safety back here. The unique thing is, and it's unique for me, is depending on the position of the hammer, you can or cannot engage or disengage that safety. So right now, the hammer is all the way forward and the safety is on. The safety blocks the hammer from actually touching the firing pin. You have to pull the hammer back, one click. You will see that the trigger has engaged. Pulling the trigger is not an option. Even if I take the safety off, the trigger will not release the hammer. So this is a decent position to be in. it allows you to on and off with the safety. To shoot it, you're going to have to pull it all the way back. And now you're ready to rock and roll. Your safety will go on and off. If you take a shot, it's going to go all the way forward, and you're not going to be able to get that safety back on. So you're going to have to pull it back, engage that safety. Then you can pull on it, pull the trigger, easing it forward and resting it on the piece of metal inside that is blocking it from actually making contact with the firing pin. For me, when I store it, I'm storing it pretty much in this position. I am not going to have it fully seated forward, and I am definitely not going to have it fully seated back. Because even though the safety is on, you can get the hammer to go all the way forward. It's not hitting the firing pin, but it is slamming into that piece of metal inside. And that is not a good thing. So don't store it with the hammer all the way back. Have it forward, resting on it. And if it is empty and you know it, and you want to have that safety off, you can just have it all the way forward. But I have it just resting with the safety on. That's me. That's how I do it. Okay. We load it right here on the side, and the tube magazine itself will hold 6 rounds. Of course, you can do 6 in the tube plus 1 in the chamber. So if you open it, put the 1 in the chamber, close it. Remember, your hammer is now racked to the rear, so you're going to want to ease that one forward. And then you can load your 6 in the tube, and you're going to be safe to go. The safety is on. The firing pin cannot be struck by the hammer, and you can rock it. And then obviously, if you ever find a deer, you're just going to pull that hammer back, click that safety off, and then let her rip tater chip. Let's talk about this handy dandy little gold trigger, which is, I think, a nice touch. It's nice and gold. I mean, you're not trying to blend into the environment at that point with a nice shiny gold trigger. So the pull of the Marlin 30AW is actually pretty light compared to other lever actions and other hunting rifles that I've dealt with. This one, with everything, once all the way back and the safety is off, £6. 6 pounds. Not bad. Kind of like your Glock. Of course, you guys know that I'm not just sitting there going, let me just test it. No, I used a trigger gauge on it, and it came back with an aggregate of 6 pounds. So there you go. A 6-pound trigger. Not that bad. All right. Overall finish is going to be blue. It is blued. All right. Now, I know some people online have talked about the quality craftsmanship of the Marlin 30AW as being pretty much average, and that there's gaps and things like that. Looking mine over, mine is actually really nicely well built. There aren't weird gaps in there. Everything seems to fit fairly well. The only thing you could be a little nitpicky about is where the forward handguard has a small gap with the receiver, but that right there could be anything. Okay, I mean, it could be swelling of the wood. It could just be it being carried around, jostled around, hunting, things of that nature. I could not tell you. I know other Marlins of the same time have been noted not to have any gap right there. Me personally, I had to actually look for it. I didn't notice it right out the gate. So I had to go digging for it, looking for that specific thing that I saw in different articles. So like I said before, the Marlin 30AW does weigh about 7 pounds. So it is a pretty stout gun to be carrying around. Hence, having a nice big padded sling will serve you well. All the way in the back, they have just a plastic butt right there. It does have some checkering on it. There is no padding here. Shooting this, the recoil on it was actually relatively soft, did not beat up my shoulder, and of course I'm kind of a person that would quickly wank about things pounding into their shoulder, just because having 2 torn labrums, like 12 gauge shotguns, just beat the crap out of my shoulder and doesn't make for a very pleasant shooting experience. However, this one, I had no problems. Zero recoil on it. I mean, of course there's recoil, but nothing that's going to bother my shoulder. I shot it for the better part of a day. We were planking pretty good. Nailing those targets out there, some steel plates, having a good old time. So the next time you find yourself in the need of a good deer gun, or just a nice lever action that's not super expensive, I think these are only a couple $100. All right, I know there are some Marlins out there that are like $4,000. This one shouldn't be more than $600. Guns International, Gun Broker, I've seen them for sale on there in really good condition, ranging from about $300 to $600, depending on where you're buying it from. That being said, this one was, well, free, because it was part of an inheritance that I had, and very grateful and very happy that I have it, part of the collection. I am definitely, when it comes to firearms, a purpose-driven consumer. As in, I try not to buy guns just because I can. I'm always trying to purchase the proper firearm for the task at hand. So, I need guns for self-defense. I'm going to pick the best guns for that. I need guns for CQC or CQB. I'm going to make sure I have those. I want guns for self-defense at a longer distance. I'm going to need firearms for hunting deer. This one is part of the hunting deer, because you know what? If tomorrow morning you wake up and there ain't no food on the shelves, at least you have something to go outside with and bag a Bambi. That being said, you guys should have something like that. I always tell people to stick to the NATO rounds. 308 would be the hunting round. But you know what? 30-30 has been around forever and a day. It's not NATO, but it is everywhere. And yes, 30-30 tends to be a bit more pricey. But we're not going to the range and shooting 1,000 rounds of it. The most you're going to do maybe is a box of 20, maybe 2 boxes. Dial it in, just get a feel for it. If you have made it to the end of this video, remember, the majority of rifles that are chambered in 30-30 are lever actions. They have a tubular magazine. Therefore, when you buy 30-30 ammo, it will be rounded up front, not nice and pointy, because it's in a tube. So they're all lined up against each other, and they're preventing the rounds from exploding within the tube due to the recoil and that bullet that is touching the primer of the other bullet, slamming into it and with a point and making it go off inside the tube. So when you do buy your 30-30 ammo, it is going to be very blunt nosed. Usually it's going to have a soft lead tip on it that is nice and round. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video on this little Marlin 30AW. I know I enjoyed shooting it, and that's pretty much all I have for you guys in this video. Unless news changes, look forward to the next video next week. We have more reviews that are coming up on various firearms that we were using down in Tennessee. And I will see all of you in the next video.